Long before there was light, there existed darkness, known as the Ginnungagap, and from that darkness came the Dark Elves, who reigned over the universe which was cloaked in eternal night. However, other beings would soon threaten the Dark Elves, those being the Celestials. The universe remained in darkness until one of these Celestials, Arishem the Judge, initiated the Big Bang, when light in the universe as we know it would come into existence. As the new universe was created and the Ginnungagap destroyed, pre-existing singularities known as the Infinity Stones were forged by the cosmic beings, death, eternity, infinity, and entropy. Each one of these singularities became ingots which could dominate the fabric of the universe, each representing an aspect of it: space, reality, power, time, mind, and soul. Arishem would create the first sun, shepherding light into the once pitch-black universe and ushering in a new age where the Dark Elves could no longer reign absolute and unchallenged. It was also around this time when the enigmatic figures known as the Grand Master and the Collector were born into the young cosmos. Arishem would then begin planting seeds of life into various planets so that more Celestials could be born. These seeds would use the worlds they were planted within as eggs, and the surface would provide the proper nutrients to propagate the Celestial population. Celestials require an extraordinary amount of energy to be born, and the seeds siphon this energy from the surface and need tremendous amounts of intelligent life to be present on the planet that they are planted into. So, the deviants were created to eliminate apex predators to make certain that intelligent life was able to evolve. Long after the Big Bang, the first major event on the most important world in the entire cosmos would occur. A demon known as Cthon erected the Darkhold Castle atop Wundagore Mountain, where he inscribed prophecies, spells, incantations, and charms into the walls of the castle, and conjured sentinels to guard the stronghold, which he intended to become the throne of the Scarlet Witch. Eventually, Arishem the Judge would choose this same planet to be the birthplace of Tiamat the Communicator, and place deviants on the planet which began performing their duties, making the way for Tiamat's emergence. Light years away, the celestial known as Ego flickered into being, adrift in the cosmos utterly and entirely alone. Over millions of years, Ego learned to manipulate the molecules around him, and formed a moon-sized shell around himself to protect the light of his core, and eventually created an avatar which he used to traverse the galaxy, hoping to find similar life to himself, but was disappointed by what the universe had to offer, so he began planting his seed on every planet within the universe, planning to turn everything that existed into an extension of himself. Elsewhere, the celestial Isan the Searcher used an Infinity Stone to demolish civilizations throughout the cosmos. Eventually, those known only as cosmic beings would come into possession of the Power Stone. Attempting to harness its power, they were unceremoniously decimated by it. Knowing that they could not use the stone or let anyone else obtain it, they encased the Power Stone in a protective orb and stored it within the temple vault on the planet Morag. Throughout the universe, deviants evolved out of the Celestials' control and began hindering the growth of Celestials within various planets by becoming apex predators themselves and destroying the intelligent life they were meant to protect, which delayed the emergence of Celestials all over the cosmos. To combat this issue, Arishem created the Eternals within the World Forge, powerful beings with various powers. Arishem prevented them from evolving so they would not end up like the deviant failures, and then sent them to celestial host planets to eliminate the growing threat of the deviants. Back on Earth, a meteorite of pure vibranium struck the continent of Africa, affecting the plant life around it, turning the area that would eventually be known as Wakanda into a paradise. Another meteorite containing vibranium also crashed into the Atlantic Ocean region that would be known as the Yucatan. The vibranium-enriched plants near there as well, but they would not be discovered for millions of years. In the skies above Earth, the constellation Cygnus could be seen by the life forms there, and within the constellation there was a planet known as Chronica 2, the homeworld of a highly advanced race of synthetic hybrid robot beings known as Chronicoms. Two Chronocoms would eventually assume the identities of Enoch and Noah and were sent to Earth. Their mission was simple: observe the sentient life of the planet and chronicle Earth's history. In the area surrounding the vibranium meteorite that struck Africa, a warrior shaman named Bashenga received a vision from one of the Ennead, the panther goddess Bast, who led him to the heart-shaped herb, which granted the warrior shaman superhuman powers. Bashenga then became the first king and Black Panther of Wakanda. However, one of the 5 tribes decided that they would not live under the command of Bashenga and instead isolated themselves in the mountains of Wakanda. The royal family of a race of aliens made of light known as the Gaborim were exiled from their home planet and crash-landed on Earth. The royal family, along with a stowaway Zartan named Zavin, were trapped in their ship. However, the father, known as the Magistrate, was able to escape and began roaming the Earth. The father of the mystic arts, the mighty Agamotto, discovered the ability to harness magical energy from alternate dimensions of the multiverse. This would be the first use of Eldritch magic on Earth, and with it, he began weaving incantations to summon this energy, which he called spells. Agamotto would begin training others in the mystic arts and dubbed himself Sorcerer Supreme. Eventually, Agamotto would obtain an Infinity Stone that could alter the flow of time itself. He fabricated an artifact he called the Eye of Agamotto to house the Green Infinity Stone, which would come to be known as the Time Stone. He and his sorcerers would eventually erect sanctums throughout the world that would defend the Earth from its greatest threat, Dormammu. Elsewhere, a powerful humanoid being known simply as Buri would become the first king of Asgard, and his people would begin safeguarding the 9 planetary bodies which were located within the cosmic nebula known as the Yggdrasil. Not long after, Bor Burisun would be born and become next in line for the Asgardian throne. In the far reaches of space, a team of Eternals assist with the emergence of a Celestial out of the planet Centauri 6. One of these Eternals, Thena, was killed during the emergence. Following these events, the Eternals returned back to the Worldforge, where their memories of the traumatic events were erased. However, after being resurrected by Arishem, there was an issue with the erasure of Thena's memories, leading to her developing a condition known as Mad Weary. After resetting her memories, Thena, alongside Icarus, Gilgamesh, Makari, Druig, Phastos, Ajax, Circe, Kingo, and Sprite, were sent to Earth and tasked with stopping the deviants from preventing the growth of humanity, which would inhibit the emergence of Tiamat. Shortly after arriving, the Eternals faced off against a group of deviants in ancient Mesopotamia, saving the inhabitants. Desperate to win a war they'd been waging for years, a radical faction of Kree extremists visit Earth attempting to create biological weapons to help them conquer their enemies. The Kree performed various experiments on mankind and would eventually expose these subjects to Terrigen mists, which would activate powers within those who carried the Inhuman gene implanted into them by the Kree. One of their subjects was a Mayan man who, after undergoing the experiments and being exposed to the Terrigen mist, gained the ability to infest dead bodies and reanimate them, obtaining their memories and knowledge while inhabiting their bodies. He also gained the ability to control other Inhumans, which earned him the name Alveus, the Latin word for hive, as in hive mind. Eventually, Alveus and the other Inhumans revolted against the Kree and forced them from the planet. After discovering these inhumane experiments, the Kree government shut the program down, and the Kree abandoned Earth, leaving behind 6 diviners which held Terrigen crystals. Back on Earth, the other Inhumans became fearful of Alveus, so along with the help of humankind, they banished Alveus to a distant planet known as Maveth by forcing him through a Kree portal. However, there were those who were fascinated by Alveus's power, and they began a cult who worshipped Alveus as a god, which would later be known as Hydra. On Asgard, Bor's son was born and became heir to the throne. After growing into young adulthood, Odin Bor's son would defeat the fire demon king Surtur on the fiery world of Muspelheim and take Surtur's eternal flame for safekeeping on Asgard. 500 years later, the Convergence began, and the Dark Elves, led by the vindictive Malekith, attempted to use the Reality Stone to return the universe to its original state prior to Ereshkigal's interference. The Dark Elves were met by the Asgardian army led by King Bor himself and driven back. The Dark Elves were forced into a sort of hibernation, waiting for the next convergence. Bor then took the Aether and hid it away. Not long after this, his son Odin would become king. Far away within another dimension, the civilization of Ta Lo was attacked by the soul-eating Dweller in Darkness. While the people of Ta Lo attempted to fight the terrifying monster off, they were being overrun until the arrival of a mystical dragon known as the Great Protector. This dragon would empower the people of Ta Lo, and with the Great Protector's help, they were able to lock the Dweller in Darkness behind the Dark Gate. Within the Nine Realms, the legendary hammer Mjolnir was forged by the dwarves of Nidavellir and given to King Odin's firstborn, Hela, who used it alongside her father to subjugate the Nine Realms under Odin's rule. However, Odin eventually realized that peace was the only way to truly unite the Nine Realms and abandoned his bloody campaign. Not taking this news too well, Hela revolted, but was sealed away in Hell by her father. After this, Hela was erased from Asgardian history by Odin. Back on Earth, the Eternals arrived in Babylon, which they helped to become the largest city in the world. It was attacked by deviants, and they battled one who would be known in legends as Enkidu. Following this confrontation, Ajak would meet with Ereshkigal and try to convince him to spare Earth. However, he denied her request. Decades later, the Eternals finally left Babylon, and Ajak revealed the truth about the Emergence and their true purpose to Icarus. Eventually, the group ended up in Greece, where Sprite told the legend of Icarus, a story about a boy who flew too close to the sun. During this time, Athena's reputation grew to the point that the Greeks began worshipping her as Athena, the goddess of war. In Egypt, the Ennead Council, with the help of Alexander the Great, betrayed the goddess Ammit, who they sealed away within her Ushapti, which was eventually hidden within the tomb of Alexander the Great, following his death later that year. So that is it for this video. We started before the dawn of time and we went all the way to the beginning of the current era. The next video will start at the beginning of the current era and go all the way to the beginning of World War II. So be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you are notified when that video goes live. If you have any corrections for me or think that I missed anything, let me know down in the comments. I plan to combine all these parts into one giant video at the end of the year. That way, the entire thing can be viewed in one video. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and remember the motto, it's the MCU over everything, and I'll see you guys next time.